We have Bitcoin up on the chart here. We're going to cover Bitcoin and some of the mining stocks. Just quickly want to cover something that's been developing this morning. I am in Milwaukee where the RNC is taking place. There was an incident this morning of a police shooting from 5 police officers that were from Ohio that have come here to help, added security with the RNC. Basically what had happened was there is a man that was engaging with another guy. He had 2 knives. Some people nearby warned those police officers of the guy with the 2 knives. The police officers approached with their firearms drawn and warned the person to put their knives down. Instead of putting them down, he actually went towards the other guy and started lunging at him, and that's when the police officers took him out, used their lethal force and took him out. So that man is alive today because the police officers acted the way they did. There's been a lot of protests and people speaking out saying that the officers should have used less lethal means. In that situation, there's not much less lethal means that you can use. I am all for, advocating for putting in measures to prevent police violence. This is not the hill to die on as far as that. We need to look at everything through a clearer lens and an unbiased lens. This is not the hill to die on, in my opinion. And also, I just want to say, I've lived in Milwaukee for a number of years. I recently just purchased a new home on the other side of the city, and I'm renting out the house that I was currently living in. And that house is in a pretty decent, okay neighborhood, or I would say it's a good neighborhood, I guess. The problem is that it's right next to an area that is not. And if you're not familiar with Milwaukee, you can go 1 or 2 blocks, literally 1 or 2 blocks, or literally cross the street, and you could be in a completely different sort of economic area, economic structure, and the crime bleeds over from one to the next. It is very common in the neighborhood that I was in to hear gunshots in the morning, at night, in the afternoon, what have you. There's been a couple of close experiences to my house or where I was actually. So to the people that are out there protesting the killing of the guy that had 2 knives that was in the middle of attacking another person, if those people aren't out there advocating for less violence on the streets, then you're coming at it from a hypocritical and biased lens, essentially, because you're not treating those two things the same. A lot of times in Milwaukee, at least the city, those sort of violences are ignored. There's been attempts to improve neighborhoods through neighborhood watches. Those get shot down under the basis or the claim that they're systemically racist. So it's unfortunate, but let's have cooler heads prevail here and let's have some common sense on it. With that said, we have Bitcoin up right here. Now I have 3 moving averages right here. This is on the daily. These are all 50-period moving averages. The blue one is a 4-hour moving average. The yellow is a 50-day moving average, and then the orange is a 50-week moving average. The huge benefit of that, this is a huge tip for you, is that if you're using a 50-period moving average, but you're going from the hourly to the 4-hour to the daily to the weekly to the monthly to try to figure out when is a good time to enter, you're going to get mixed signals. And a perfect example is really right here, like you can say a couple of days ago, right? Technically, on the 4-hour, this is an entry signal if you're just looking at the 4-hour period moving average. However, it isn't quite a buy signal on the daily. So to go back and forth and everything, obviously it's doable to go back and forth between the time frames, but it is kind of hard to, especially when you have other indicators, to look at everything as a whole. So by putting all these together and only entering on certain points like right here, where you meet all of the criteria, where the price action is above all of these moving averages, and when this blue moving average is above the yellow moving average, that is a good entry signal. You look at something like this right here, where they all converged and then the price action went above it. To get in that early is a huge advantage, let alone the MACD right here, which is on the weekly time frame. is lining up perfectly as well. It isn't often that things like this happen, but it's very easy to miss them when they do. One, because it's rare, and two, because you're just bouncing back and forth between all these different time frames. Now, I do like to use the MACD on the daily and the weekly, and to keep the chart really simple, I just go into the settings. I'll show you how to do all that right now. Go into the settings and you just take the time frame, and you can either put it on like the weekly or the daily like I have it, or you can just put it on the chart, which is what the default setting is. So on the weekly right here, we are still seeing some weakness. It's still in a downtrend on the MACD, you can see. However, if that trend continues on the daily, which we'll bring it up right now, you can actually see that tides are turning a little bit, right? So that is a huge benefit. It really helps you to look at everything as a whole. And when you have huge opportunities where everything just lines up perfectly, that is a good time to, maybe that's when you deploy options or credit spreads, something like that. And when you want to get in a little early or something, maybe you just do, you buy shares or, parts of Bitcoin, and you can get in down here. So we're going to bring up CleanSpark and Mara. So CleanSpark right now is very similar to Bitcoin. However, it is showing a little bit more strength in the sense that the blue moving average is above the yellow. And then if you bring up Mara, you can see that it is being exhausted. The downtrend on the MACD is being exhausted. And if you have this histogram turn green, you're going to have a lot of traders that are paying attention to that, and they're going to try to get in. And so this could come, maybe it'll come up and down a little bit. You can see we're down a little bit today, so it could be just exhausting a little bit. But if that trend continues and you see that histogram turn green, that is going to signal a good entry position. Now you can see we've been choppy, we've been side to side a little bit. And if we just bring up a trend line here, this for the most part is sideways. It's showing up because of the recent price action here. So let's maybe just move it to like right here. Very much more sideways, right? So this is important to look at the support and resistance because it'll allow you to be on the right side of the chop. Obviously, you shouldn't trade in the chop whenever possible, but it's not always easy to see that, right? If you have an uptrend and then some starts chopping or vice versa, it's not always to see when that's occurring until retroactively. So if you at least bring up these trend lines, you can make one yourself, or you can just use the tool on TradingView. If you're at least buying in off of the bounce of the support, you're at least going to be going back and forth between being in the green and then maybe breaking even or slightly red. If you do the opposite and you buy up here because you're like, oh, we're in the beginning of a new uptrend, right? This is uptrending right here. You're going to be in the red most of the time. And then as soon as you get green, a lot of times psychologically what traders will do, they'll be like, oh, I broke even, I looked out, I'm going to get out. And that's not the way to trade, right? Because then something like this happens and you FOMO in. So that's a perfect example of what to avoid. And we're going to be watching this histogram right here. We really, really want to see this blue signal line come above the yellow signal line. The blue line is the MACD line, excuse me. So the blue MACD line above this signal line is what we really want to see. That's all I have for you today. I'm going to have a bunch more content. We're still going to be doing trading and technical analysis, but I want to get into a lot of other stuff. I have a video coming up of Social Security and how actually terrible it is and how politicians use it to rob the American people. That is the sort of stuff we should be focusing on. I think everyone can agree on that. Little hints, you get a negative 4% return on your Social Security as it is designed today. I don't think anyone is in support of that unless they have some misinformation. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about all this, whether it's the trading or the current political climate. If you like this content, the easiest way you can help the channel is to hit the like button. Until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks.